Hello and welcome to the Gaming Rules video log for the month of October 2020. Now the first thing I'm going to say as I start this is I'm not going to apologise for it's being late. I mean this must be the first video log for months where I haven't come on and said, look, I'm really sorry it's late. And I'm not going to. It's roughly on time. I'd planned to do this on the Wednesday. I'm filming this on Wednesday and it is Wednesday. And yeah, I'm actually doing it on time. That doesn't mean things have calmed down at all. Nope, I'm still crazy busy. But I just wanted to make sure that I at least got something done on time. So here we go. So this video log is going to cover everything that I've been doing since the last video log, which was actually done on the 1st of September, according to my notes. So yeah, here we go. Starting off with the games played so far. And I've played a lot of good ones. So the first thing, according to my calendar diary thing, is Friday, the 4th of September, I played Hamburg. Now, to be fair to me, that feels a lot longer ago than 4 weeks ago, but it was only 4 weeks ago where I did a live tutorial and playthrough for Hamburg. So Hamburg, for those who don't know, this is the new version of Bruges. So Bruges is I forgot there for a minute. Bruges is a Stefan Feld game, really well respected, well liked, generally speaking. There's a few people that don't like it. But it's been out of print for such a long time, and Queen Games has made an arrangement with Stefan Feld that over the next few years they're going to be releasing a series of, it's the City Collection, and the first game in that City Collection is Hamburg, and then the second one is going to be Amsterdam. It was on Kickstarter. And as part of that Kickstarter, I did a tutorial and playthrough. Obviously, Queen Games, wanted me to do a video to help promote the campaign. So it was a sponsored video, but what you got to remember is I'm a massive Stefan Feld game. So although I'm going to say that Hamburg is a very good game, please don't think I'm saying that just because the video that I did was sponsored by Queen Games. As I say, I've been a massive Stefan Feld fan for a long time. He's one of my favourite designers. I really liked Bruges, but one of the big problems with Bruges was the card draw, because all of the cards, there's 5 different colours, and they were split over 2 decks. In Hamburg, it's 1 deck per colour. So if you want a pink card, you can take a pink card. That fixes one of the problems that I had. There's a few other tweaks as well, which pretty much I like. Now, there were a couple of problems with the game during that playthrough, specifically with the iconography on the cards. But what they did, and this was a little unusual, because normally when you see games going on Kickstarter, it's like, here is what it's going to look like. With this one, it wasn't. It's like, right, we're doing a Kickstarter for the game. Here's what it looks like at the moment, but a lot of this is going to change. This is just a prototype. And even just the day after I released the video, they announced what they'd planned to do with the artwork and the boards and everything else. So it was a little unusual, but anyway, I did that. So yeah, I really liked Hamburg. I think one of the best things about Hamburg is that it's going to be, it's updated the Bruges game, fixed the problems that I had with it, and it's going to make that game accessible for now for a new audience. Because as I say, it was out of print and really hard to get hold of. Oh, and it includes the expansion from Bruges as well. So that's Hamburg. Next up, the following Friday the 11th, Pillars of the Earth. Now, as part of my Patreon campaign, which I will mention later on, but thank you very much to all of my patrons for making the work that I do possible. As part of the Patreon campaign, I said every few months I'm going to do what's called Cult of the Old, because I was getting a little bit jaded, and I still am a little bit, and I don't even know if jaded is the right word, but a lot of content creators, including me, and I will admit, it's all about the cult of the new. Now, some people really chase the cult of the new, and they talk about a game because it's massively popular, and then a week later they're not playing it anymore. And I can get that because there isn't enough time to play all of the games, but it's all of a sudden hype, best game ever, and then a week later, no mention of it whatsoever. And as I say, I'm a bit guilty of that sometimes as well, just because there isn't enough time to play these games. But was it last year? I think it was last year. It was either earlier this year or last year. I was asked to write an article for a magazine about the oldest game in my collection that I haven't played. So I went through my collection and I found Torres. Now, Torres is a game that I've had in my collection for probably about 12 or 13 years. I got it off Barry. We were gaming buddies back in Hertfordshire 15 years ago. And it's just sat there and I've never got round to playing it. So I went, well, this is it then. So I wrote the first half of the article of this is why I've got this game and this is why I've never got round to playing it. Then I played it, and then I wrote the second half of the article to say, and now I've played it, okay? But what that gave me, I thought, oh, hang on a minute. Okay, so that's a really old game that's in my collection that I hadn't played, and now I have played it. And I enjoyed it. It was a bit too abstract for me, and I did only play it 2 players, and I would want to play it with more than 2 players next time. I thought, well, hang on a minute. I've got games in my collection like Pillars of the Earth, Puerto Rico. They're all between 10 and 20 years old, and some of them are still great games. Nobody's doing videos on these. Nobody's giving them any, nobody's showing them off whatsoever. So I said, right, Patreon goal of the campaign last year, that if I reach this amount of funding, I'll do Cult of the Old. And it reached its goal, so that's why I did Pillars of the Earth. And at some point in the next couple of months, I'll be doing another older game. And I'm also going to be covering some of the Spiel des Jahres titles as well. So we did Pillars of the Earth. Pillars of the Earth for me is an 8.5 out of 10 game, unless you use the house rule, which is an official sort of variant-ish sort of, and then it's a 9.5 out of 10 game for me. I love Pillars of the Earth. I think it's a fantastic game, and I was really happy. In fact, I think it was my Patreon supporters that voted on that being the game that I play, I think. I can't quite remember. If it was them, thank you very much, because the game's fantastic. So that video is on the channel now. What I haven't mentioned yet, and I should have mentioned this at the start, a lot of these games that I'm going to talk about now, there are videos on the channel, because at the moment, 90% of what I do is being put on the channel. So Hamburg, videos on the channel if you want to go and watch it. Pillars of the Earth, videos on the channel if you want to go and watch it. Nick and Gemma came round, I taught them both how to play, and then we played it. Now, having said 90% of the games I play are on the channel, the next 2 games are not, because we finished the game of Pillars of the Earth, and it was about 10 o'clock. Now, Nick and Gemma, when they come round, they normally disappear about 11 o'clock. 10 o'clock, we'd finished. I thought, well, let's go and play another game. Let's not live stream it. Let's just find a quick game that I've got in my collection, and I found Tranquility. Now, Tranquility is a game which I did the official how to play video for, but I've never actually played the game, okay? The rules for the game were relatively simple, that I was able to learn how to play the game from the rulebook, write the script, and create the video without having ever played it, which is unusual. For heavier games, I need to actually play the game and understand it before working out how to teach it. Anyway, I'd never played Tranquility, and it's a game which I was in 2 minds about, because I like the idea of it, but also it has some mechanisms in there which trigger my uncomfortableness, in that it's a cooperative game. I've got this hand of cards, I'm not allowed to communicate with the other players, and I've got to do something. And if I do that wrong, it loses us the game, or it's a bad play, or something like that. And I've had a horrible experience with playing Hanabi, just to pick one, where the other players were experts of the game, and I couldn't, it was just impossible for me to play. It just made me feel really uncomfortable and horrible, and I don't like that experience, when the other players are experts and they're looking at you with like, well, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Well, I'm sorry, I'm not in your elite group of Hanabi players, I'm just here to play the game. But we learned how to play together, because although I did the how to play video, it was so long ago I couldn't remember how to play. But quick rule book, learned how to play. We played it, we lost, which is fair enough, because if you can beat the game first out, then it's not that hard. And then we played again straight away. We enjoyed it enough to play the game a second time, which we still didn't beat, but we got close. And some people have sort of compared the game a little bit, I think, to Hanabi, but it's more than that. And I actually quite enjoyed it. It's clever in the way that it works. And you're trying to lay out all of the cards in a row, and there's a few tricks that you need to learn. So the first time we played it, we weren't sure about those tricks, and we were putting cards next to each other, thinking, oh, well, if I put a 62 next to a 61, that's only going to cost 1. That's good. Yeah. No, what you want to do is you want to put a 61 here, and then you want to put like a 70 next to it. Oh, sorry, not next to it, but with a 1 gap in between. And then you want to play the 62, because then you only pay the difference in 1, and suddenly, yeah. So we learned quite a lot. And then going into the second game, we were like, right, yeah, we've got that knowledge now. Let's try and use that to our advantage. We didn't quite win. We left too big a gap or too small a gap in one particular area. We got close. We probably would have won if we'd have played it a third time. And if you're worried about thinking, oh, well, once you've beaten it, that's it. No, there's a whole host of expansions included in the game, each of which makes it harder. So I think the base game, the core rules are designed to teach you how to play. And then once you've beaten that, you can then start putting in the expansions. Beautiful game, nice little box, great artwork, and a thinky filler. So there we go. That's Tranquility. Played that twice. Next up, Sunday the 13th, was a game of Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy, not live streamed. Well, it was, but only to my Patreon supporters as a behind the scenes video. Because at some point in last month, I was doing a sponsored playthrough of Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy, which was all arranged pre-coronavirus. So it was all planned that a few people would come around my house and we would do a live tutorial and playthrough of Eclipse, second edition, okay? However, with the coronavirus rules and everything else, even though we're technically allowed to have multiple people from multiple households around the house, it's not something we felt comfortable in doing. So the plan was Rick would come over and we would do a 2-player playthrough. So I spoke to Loud to Pellet, who were sponsoring the video, and I said, look, we can't really play this game remotely. And I'm glad they didn't insist that I did that. So all I can do is offer you a 2-player playthrough of it. And they said, yeah, that's fine. Do a 2-player playthrough. But I needed to remember how to play. It's been years since I've played the game, and second edition changed a few things. So what we did is we did a 3-player playthrough using Tabletop Simulator, me, Rick and Mo. Thank you very much, Mo, for teaching us. And we played through the game on the Sunday night as a warm-up for me to prepare for doing the actual video. So yeah, that was the Sunday night. That was Eclipse. I'll talk a bit more about it in a minute. On the 15th of September, sad times. Very, very sad times. In fact, I say sad times, it was a little bit emotional, to be honest. Tainted Grail, our campaign finished. We knew it was coming to an end. I spoke about this in the last video log. We did like chapter 13 or something like that, or we were on chapter 13. And we knew we only had a couple of chapters left. It's 15 chapters in total. And we could tell from the way the story was going. Some chapters are really short, some chapters are really long. And I got the feeling after last time we played that this was probably going to be our last session. We'll do chapter 14. I had a feeling that chapter 14 was going to be short, and then I had a feeling that chapter 15 was going to be shorter, and that we would be able to get, I mean, when I say short, I mean like an hour and a half. Some of the chapters have taken us 4 weeks to play. And Vicky was very much I don't want this to end. So I want us to do chapter 14 tonight and then chapter 15 next week. Now, bearing in mind it takes us quite a long time to set the game up, we played and chapter 14 was over in about an hour and a half. And then we had a discussion and I said, look, I'd like to finish this tonight. I don't want it to end, but I also don't want to have to spend half an hour putting it out. I don't want to spend half an hour putting it away when chapter 15 is go there, end of story. So I managed to convince Vicky and we finished it. And in fact, we could have finished in chapter 14, okay? Because of a choice that you make, we could have made a certain choice in chapter 14 that would have ended it there. We didn't. We did something else, and that led us to chapter 15. And yeah, it's over. Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon campaign is over for us. Vicky wanted to replay it, and I also would like to replay it. If I didn't have any other games and didn't have anything else planned, I would like to play it again, because the storyline, although the start and the end are similar, the paths that you take in the middle are different, and the different characters are different things. If we were to play it again, we would choose 2 different characters and we would choose a different route. In chapter 2, we'd choose a different route. We'd go a completely different way and do a completely different thing. The reason we're not playing it again is we have Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion to play, we have a dozen other games to play, and the rest of the Tainted Grail stuff is turning up, I believe, in November. Okay, so we don't have long before the next lot arrive. So the plan is Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion will keep us going for a bit, and then we'll go back into the second campaign of Tainted Grail. So I've spoken about Tainted Grail on all of my other video logs, and my opinion is still exactly the same as it was before. One of my favourite games. The narrative is fantastic. The game has its problems and it does have some flaws, and unfortunately they've let it down. And you've got to get round those flaws. And I know a lot of the reviews were negative because a lot of the reviews picked up on those flaws and then trashed the game because of it. And unfortunately, they didn't see all of the goodness that was there, which is a shame. But as I say, I'm not saying the game's perfect. It does have those problems. And even right at the end, even on chapter 14, there was one thing that happened, which was like, this doesn't make any sense to the narrative. And we ended up stopping playing, going on to BGG and reading something because we wanted to do the right thing. It was the end of the campaign. We really wanted to get the end of the campaign done. And we read this thing on BGG and they said, oh yeah, near the end, we changed this particular thing. And I understand the reasons why they changed it, but unfortunately it didn't fit with the narrative and it left us completely confused. So as I say, it does have a few of these moments, but I don't want to trash the whole game because so much of it was fantastic and it's still probably my favourite narrative setting for a game that I've played. Yeah, brilliant. So more on Tainted Grail when we pick up the second campaign. Okay, so Friday the 18th, Rick was coming over for the day and we did some games. So I took some time off from my schedule to have an afternoon of games with Rick and produce content. So one of the games that I'd been sent is the new game from Riot Games, which was Telestones. Now this was really, so a big company like Riot Games, I had to sign an NDA. And then when the game arrived, I wasn't even allowed to tell anybody it had arrived. I literally couldn't tell anybody it had arrived. No photos, no nothing, wasn't allowed to post anything. They were very, very strict with the NDA. And even the point where they said, right, you're now allowed to post a photo of it, but you can't post anything about the inside, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, whatever. Now Riot Games made Mechs vs Minions, which is up there because I borrowed Ian's copy and I've still not played it yet. But I was keen. They reached out to me. They said, we'll happily send you a copy for review if you want one. I was like, yeah, okay, because this might be quite cool. And then it arrived and it's this tiny little box. Is it here? Yeah, it's here. It's this tiny little box here. Okay. Now, what I'd agreed to do, because it wasn't sponsored coverage, I did one of my learn how to play the game from the rulebook and then play it video. So me and Rick got the game, unboxed it, looked at it, learned the rules, played it, and then played it again. Okay? That is on the channel now. So if you want to see a video of me learning how to play the game from the rulebook and then playing it, that video's on there now. Those kind of videos seem to be popular. I know not everybody likes them, which is fine. A lot of people come to my channel because they want me to teach them how to play a game and they don't want me to sit there reading a rulebook learning how to play it. But that was bonus content provided for free. You know, I wasn't commissioned to do it, so that's what I do. And I know a lot of people like them. What do I think about the game? Well, it's a game which I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed both of my games playing against Rick. It was fun and I'm glad we did it. Would I ever play that game again? No, I would not choose to play that game again. And that is not because I think it's a bad game. It's because there is a memory element to the game and a bluffing element to the game. And I don't play games with them. It's just having to remember the order of things on a track. Yeah, that's not for me. And you'll see how I did in the first game when I played it and how I did it. But I think the game is a good game. I think it's cleverly designed. There's not many rules in there, but the rules that are in there, some of them are a little silly. The fact that you can point to a piece and say, can you put the horse over here when it's not the horse? It's actually the shield. You can say whatever you want, but you point to the actual piece and your opponent then has to move that piece. It messes with the brain. But there's a few other, that's not the clever bit, that's the silly bit. The clever bit is the way that if your opponent scores a point, you can then peek at 3 tiles. The way that the challenge rules work are really clever and they work really well. So yeah, I respect the game for what it is. And I would love to run a Telestones tournament. You know, if I can find like 8, 12 people, whatever, run a Telestones tournament because it's a perfect pub game. It takes like 15, 20 minutes to play, if that. And it's just a strip with some nice components, probably overpriced for what it is. But anyway, that's Telestones, videos on the channel. On the same day, and this wasn't live streamed, me and Rick played Marvel Champions. What we had is because the streams that we were doing that day were all at specific times, in between those times, we had a game of Marvel Champions set up downstairs. So after Telestones had finished, we went downstairs, played a bit of Marvel Champions, came upstairs to do the next stream, went downstairs, did a bit more Marvel Champions, and over the day we played Marvel Champions. Rick built 2 decks, I believe it was the starter decks, and we played against Wrecking Crew. Marvel Champions, I think, is fantastic, right? Brilliant game. I don't play it enough, and I've done loads of content for this game already. Unfortunately, there was some kind of, I don't know, there's some weird thing going on with Asmodee and FFG where only American reviewers will ever get review copies of this. So even people outside America who support the game and want to do videos for the game and everything else, no, they don't get any copies. They have to literally go to the shop to buy it themselves. And I'm not complaining about having to go and buy a copy of a game for myself, but when I'm producing tons and tons of content for them and videos for them, and they're like, yeah, whatever, we don't care, you're not American. If you were American, yeah, we'd send you free copies of it so you can carry on producing content. Anyway, the game was great. We beat it though, and it didn't feel that difficult, and that was with starter decks. I don't think we should have been able to beat it with the 2 starter decks. I like the idea that you have to construct your deck. But anyway, it was good fun to play and enjoyed that. Then also on the 18th, we did Super Skill Pinball because later this month, brackets, tomorrow, at the time of recording this video, it's tomorrow. So if you're watching this on Thursday the whatever of October, what day is it today? 7th. If you're watching this on Thursday the 8th of October, it's tonight. I'm doing a live playthrough of Super Skill Pinball with Jeff Engelstein. So on the 18th, when Rick came over, we basically learnt how to play the game from the rulebook and then we played it. Okay, again, that video's on the channel if you want to see that. If you don't want to see me learning how to play, stay tuned for Thursday the 8th of October when I will be doing a proper tutorial and playthrough video with the designer. So because that video that I'm doing on Thursday the 8th of October is sponsored, I'm doing, yeah, this is the thing, right? Super Skill Pinball, it's a really good game, right? We really enjoyed it. It's very, very thematic. It's a lot of fun, huge amount of dice rolling, but it's dice rolling and then choosing what to do with the results. It's really, really clever, and I've played it a few times since, and yeah, it's really good. So Super Skill Pinball, watch out for that, or go and watch the other one. So then Eclipse. So the whole reason that Rick was coming over on the 18th was to play Eclipse. And we played 2-player. Now, I was a bit nervous about playing Eclipse at 2-player because I'd never played it at 2-player before. It's a Space 4X game for up to 6 people, and those games work best with like 3, 4, 5 or 6 people with loads going on and bits of negotiation and diplomacy and, oh, if you leave that area, then this player's going to move in. And a 2-player loses a lot of that. However, I thought the video was fine. If the idea of the video was to teach people how to play the game and see how it plays out, then the video did that. And although you missed out on the interaction from other players in the game, we played. And I really enjoyed playing it. Now, the original Eclipse I've got, and I played it a whole bunch. And in the end, I started going off it a little bit because although it is less random than its, Twilight Imperium, which is the granddaddy of Space 4X games, there were still some bits in it that I felt were a bit too random for me. But it is shorter, it is more streamlined. The new version looks absolutely gorgeous. And those house rules that I used to play with back in the first edition, you could still play with them in the second edition if you wanted to. Obviously, my tastes have evolved over time and I'm less bothered by the amount of randomness that there is in games than I used to be, say, 5 years ago. But I will be putting those house rules onto I've got a geek list, and I will be adding those house rules to my geek list. And like all of my house rules, they are there. It's your choice. Lots of people will read that, call me an idiot, and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about and my house rules are total nonsense. That's fine. It's a house rule. Some people have read my house rules and gone, oh yeah, actually I have the same feeling about the game and that house rule there would actually fix that problem and, make the game more enjoyable for me. That's the point. You can use it, you can not use it. I will try and remember to get round to posting them, but I think I have 2 or maybe 3 house rules for Eclipse. One of them doesn't involve the dice, if you thought it did. Right, anyway, Eclipse, 2-player playthrough is on the channel now, and it kind of reinvigorated my love for the game because it is just so nice to play. and I'm painting the miniatures, more on that later. But at some point, when lockdown eases, whether that be this year, next year, who knows when, I'm going to be doing another playthrough of the game. Not a sponsored one, I'm just going to be doing another 3 or 4 player playthrough of it because I really want to play it. Right, that's Eclipse. Next up, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Now, we actually did this twice, so I've forgotten the entry. We've played this twice in September. We played it on the 6th of September and again on the 20th of September. We are working our way through the green box, which is box 4, which is Baker Street Irregulars. We did case 3 on the 6th and we did case 4 on the 20th. Now, I'm a massive fan of Sherlock Holmes. I'm a massive fan of Sherlock Holmes. I'm a massive fan of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I have been since 1983 when I got the original copy of the game. And I've been professionally involved in all of the box sets. Sorry, not all of the box sets. I wasn't involved in the blue one. I was involved in the red one. I was involved in the brown one. I was the editor. I would have been involved in the green one, but they approached me to do the work at a point where I wasn't able to fit the work in, but I got one of my team to do it. So you will notice that Gaming Rules is probably listed, I hope so, as the editor of the green box, but it wasn't me personally. So I can give you my opinion on it. Right, the green box of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, box number 4, Baker Street Irregulars, is the best one by far. We have only played 4 of them, okay? We've only played 4 out of the 10, but I can already tell you, if you're interested in Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and you don't know which box set to get box 4. You do not need to do them in order at all, and box 4 is fantastic. Dave Neal is the guy who has written the scenarios, and we've only done 4 of them, and they're all brilliant. They're so good, and they're so immersive, and the stories are clever, and the way that it uses, there's a new letter system that's included in the game. So if you know the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective series, but you've not played any of these, there's a letter system. And it works a little bit like Time Stories in that if you go to a location, you will get to write down a letter on your piece of paper. Oh, you've been here and you found out that bit of information. Right, write down the letter A. Okay? Well, you circle A on a sheet. And then at some point in future, when you go somewhere else, it will say, do you have the letter A circled? If you do this. So it becomes very interactive with, oh, now we found that bit of information, we can go back there. Oh, and it works like that. It's just a really clever addition to the system. But that's not all. There's more to it. Certainly in case 2, getting on the trains, yeah, really good. I don't want to give any spoilers away. It's fantastic. Go and get it. Yes, Paul just told you to go and buy a game. Shouldn't do that, naughty boy. Right, 23rd of September. Clans of Caledonia solo playthrough. Oh my, I'm having flashbacks. So, every month, as part of my Patreon campaign, my Patreon supporters vote on which solo playthrough they want to see. So I always give them a list of like 5 or 6 games, and they vote. And last month, they chose Clans of Caledonia. Now, I say I put up a list of 5 or 6 games. My Patreon supporters actually contribute to that list first. So they contribute to a list. I have a Google sheet that they fill in, and then I pick 5 or 6 from there each month and put them on the list. And Clans of Caledonia was put on the first list, and I went, oh, okay, yeah, I'd forgotten that I had a solo mode. I'll put that on the list. And then it won. And I was a bit surprised that it won, but Clans of Caledonia is a well-respected game. So I put it on the list, and then I contacted the designer, because I actually did the tutorial video. I did the how to play video for Clans of Caledonia like a couple of years ago now. And I'd forgotten how to play, and I hadn't played for ages, and I remember it being a very good game, but I just hadn't played it for ages. So I spoke to him and I said, look, I'm doing a solo playthrough on whatever night it was that I'm going to do it. And he went, which variant are you going to use? And I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, there's the one in the book, but then there's an Automa that he designed, and then there's a fan-made Automa. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't know. So I decided that I would use the Automa that he designed. And I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd have played the solo game as per the book, right? Now, the reason for that is me and solo games, I want them to be low maintenance, low admin, just play nicely. Like, right, I have no problem with the solo mode in many, many other games, like Ora et Labora, right? There's another player, but that other player doesn't really do much, okay? Automas for me, and I know people that love them, so I'm not knocking them, I'm saying they're not for me. Because to do an Automa, it has to be clever. It has to be some kind of built-in AI. It has to be, well, if it's Tuesday and it's raining and it's got 3 pieces here and only 1 piece here, then it does this. But if it has 2 pieces there, it does this instead. But if it's a Wednesday or it's not raining, then it moves this to there and it... Right, I don't want that in a solo game. I want my solo games to be me playing the game and just doing my thing. Which is what the solo game included in the rulebook for Clans of Caledonia is, but I didn't look at that. I just thought, yeah, I'll use the Automa because the designers designed it, okay? And it was like a 2.5 hour video and I had a headache by the end of it and I'm kind of, ugh. So what it's done is it's reminded me that Clans of Caledonia is a really good game and I'm currently in the middle of a game online on Board Game Arena. But yeah, and if you like Automas, that's absolutely fine. But if you want a low maintenance solo mode, just use the one that's included in the book. Which I fancy doing, actually. Right, next up. Pendulum. Friday, the 25th of September, Paul plays a game that everybody hates. Okay, so not everybody hates, but Pendulum, the latest game from Stonemaier Games, lots of hype at the start because it's a new game from Stonemaier Games, and then all the reviews kept coming out. Sorry, all the reviews started coming out, and a few people liked it, but overall, the impression that I got from people was that this is not a good game. People are not liking this game, and it's a bit of a flop. Now, a couple of people reached out to me and said, Paul, don't listen to them, they're wrong, it's a good game. And I'm like, yeah, but 90% of people are saying it's not a good game. Stonemaier Games reached out to me, and any game like that piques my interest. Because I'm like, but why are people saying it's a bad game? But I went into that game fully expecting not to like it. Now, again, this was not a sponsored video, and I don't have the time at the moment to sit and learn games. I just don't have the time at the moment to do that and then get other people around to teach them. So it was another one of Paul learns how to play the game from the rulebook with Nick and Gemma. They were there as well, and the 3 of us sat there and learned how to play the rulebook together. Learn how to play the game from the rulebook together on a live stream. Now, I actually like doing those videos, and as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of people tune in and they like watching us learn. In fact, some people have tuned in and said, Paul, I've got this game and haven't got round to learning it yet, so watching you learn how to play the game on camera is a good, it helps them learn the game rather than me just teaching them. Them seeing me going through the process of looking at the rulebook, getting confused, flipping backwards and forwards, as I say, in a perfect world, I would have time to sit down and learn that game in my own time and practice it and then do a video on it. But then you start to think, that wasn't a sponsored video. Publishers sponsor me to create those videos. I can't really start doing them for free, right? Because if that was a sponsored video, and I'm not saying that Stonemaier Games should have sponsored me, but if they did, if they said, Paul, we'd like you to do a sponsored tutorial and playthrough of Pendulum, I would have probably spent an entire day of my life, well, of my time, split up over a few days, learning the game, practicing it, playing with other people, writing a script. I would prepare. And I can't do that for a video that isn't sponsored, okay? Which is why I do these learn how to play the game from the rulebook videos. Anyway, we all really liked it. And I posted on Board Game Revolution Facebook group like that night or the next day and said, just played Pendulum, I really liked it, there must be something wrong with me. Because, as I say, there was this overwhelming message of people not liking it, and I was like, and we were all like, yeah, that was actually quite good, we'd play that again. It's different. Pendulum is different. I don't have another game in my collection like it. I really enjoyed it. I want to play it again. I'm not saying it's the best game ever. And the purple sand timer stuck, so I applied for a replacement. Got the replacement 2 days later, because I know the guy in the UK that sends out the replacements. Great customer service. And it was like, yeah, and we had a couple of issues with the rulebook, which I've now fed back to Stonemaier Games in the hope that they can improve the rulebook so that it's a bit easier for other people to learn, because there was definitely a couple of bits at the start that it told you to take your player cards of your chosen thing, and then before you actually chosen a thing, on the next page it was like, oh, now choose which character you want to play. And we're like, well, hang on a minute. Yeah, it didn't quite work. But the game itself was interesting. Now, I get stressed out with timers, right? Normally, in a game with a timer, if you put a timer in front of me, my brain seizes. The stress levels go up, and I don't go faster because there's a timer. My brain just shuts down. I can't focus when there's a time pressure. It's not that severe, but you get the idea. And this game has timers. So not only was I getting this, general feedback that the game wasn't very good, it has timers in it, and I'm not going to like that. I was the least stressed of the three of us because it's not like a real-time game. It is a real-time game, but it's not. You turn a timer over and you're like, right, okay, so the black timer's running and the green timer's going there. So I'm going to wait for the black timer to run out, and then when it does, I'm going to move that to there. Okay, and the black timer has now run out. Right, quick, get the piece, move it over there. What else do I want to do? I want to move that one to there. Right, okay. So I'm now waiting for the green one to run out, and I need to think when the green one runs out, I'm going to do that action, and then I'm going to move this one to a right, okay. And now the green one's out. Okay, move that. You're planning, you're thinking, and then you're waiting for the timers to run out. And it's clever and it works. And you can even play without the timers. And we did. We played the first round without the timers. Anyway, Pendulum, I've waffled enough. Really enjoyed it. Want to play it again. Not as bad as people say. I haven't actually gone back yet and watched anybody else's reviews, so I don't know why they said it was bad. And I'm quite curious now to go back and find out why. Next up is The Crew. So our game of Pendulum didn't take all night, which means it's time to get out another of Paul's games that he hasn't played yet. So at the start of September, I started going through all of the games in my collection that I haven't played yet and adding them up, and it was between 60 and 70, and I still haven't finalised the list, but it was too many. So I've been on a real push to start playing games that I've got that I haven't played yet, and one of them was The Crew. Now, The Crew is fantastic. Everybody's been saying it's been fantastic. It's won loads and loads of awards, and Cosmos Games sent me a copy of the game, and then lockdown hit. The Crew is a game that you need other people to play. You can't play solo. It needs other players. I can't have other players. And I wrote to them. And I speak to them on Twitter and I say, look, thank you very much for this copy of the game. I cannot play this game yet, okay? As soon as I'm able to, I will. And they said, that's fine, no problem, just get around to it. So, yeah, in September, I did a live tutorial and playthrough. Well, learn how to play the game from the rulebook and then play it of The Crew, which is a game that everybody was raving about months ago, and now I don't hear anybody talking about it because it's like, things have moved on. So I'm late to the party, and I played it now. Wow. I was blown away by The Crew, so much so that I played it... When did I play it? I don't have it on my list. No, it's not here. Right. That's a shame because I have played it again. So we played it, we did the first 5 scenarios that night, or the first 5 missions. And if you haven't played The Crew, it is a cooperative trick-taking game which sounds really simple, but then when you actually start playing it, it is really, really clever. Because you can't really talk to each other, but there is one bit of information that you can give, and how you give that information and when you give it is just phenomenal. So very, very simple. It's a trick-taking game. And if you don't know trick-taking games, this isn't going to make much sense, but it's cooperative, and at the start of the mission, certain players get missions that you have to win the trick that contains the green 3, okay? And if you do, you're going to win. And if you don't, if somebody else wins the trick with the green 3, you've failed the mission. So as a group, you've got to go, right, okay, so Gemma needs to win the trick with the green 3, and I've got the green 3 in my hand. Right, so I need Gemma to start a trick with a high green number, and then I'll play that, and then she'll win it, and then mission done, without talking to each other. But you can be clever, you can give people information, you can put a card on the table, and you can put a counter on it to say, this green 3 here, I've got the green 3, it's in my hand, it's here, and it's my lowest green card. And the other players are like, ah, yeah, really clever. Now, by the end of that night, me and Gemma had kind of got the hang of it. Nick, not so much. Nick was struggling with the whole trick-taking and the whole, oh, well, he's just said this. What does that kind of mean? Yeah, and I'm normally the person to not get that. Anyway, skipping forward, and it's not on my list here because I've forgotten to add it, but one night, it could have been last week, actually, I'd had a really bad day. and I needed to do something fun in the evening, so very, very impromptu. I posted on my Slack channel, I said, look, anybody fancy playing The Crew? Because it's available now online on Board Game Arena in beta. And I thought, I actually really liked The Crew. I want to play it again. So I got together, so it was me, David Ellis, and Ken from Punchboard Media over in the States, and the three of us played it on Board Game Arena, and we were chatting to each other on Discord, and then Mohammed joined in and helped me out. You can't join other people in during the game, so he joined in the voice discussion, but he was kind of helping me out, sending me messages, giving me hints on what to do. And it was fantastic. It was so fantastic. I was buzzing. I couldn't sleep afterwards, and I just want to play The Crew now. It's really, really good. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and check out my video where we learn how to play The Crew and we play through it, and it's just really good. Right, that's The Crew. That weekend was Castle Tricon, another virtual online convention, but this one was a bit different. This was done, it was Horrible Guild, CGE, and Heidelberger got together and they ran this virtual convention. Now, I was there doing demos for CGE, but it was a proper virtual convention. You actually went into this virtual world and you had an avatar and you were walking around, and it was all very cool. It was that kind of thing. I did demos of Lost Ruins of Arnak and Under Falling Skies. I also did a demo of Pulsar 2849, but I didn't play in that. So the games that I played that weekend was Lost Ruins of Arnak and Under Falling Skies. I did one multiplayer game of each and one solo game of each. Under Falling Skies is kind of a solo anyway, but I did that with other people from CGE, and on the Sunday it was solo Under Falling Skies and solo Lost Ruins of Arnak. That was the first showing of the solo game of Lost Ruins of Arnak. So Lost Ruins of Arnak is coming out from CGE. You can pre-order it now, and if you want to see how the game works, you can watch the playthrough that I did on Saturday. That was using Tabletopia. But if you want to see how the solo game works, I did that on the Sunday. Those videos are on my channel now. On the 29th, me and Vicky started our Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion campaign. You already know how I feel about Gloomhaven. If you haven't watched any of my previous video logs, Gloomhaven's fantastic. Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, I was skeptical about, because I like Gloomhaven, I like the complexity of Gloomhaven. I don't want Gloomhaven light. That's something that I'm not that interested in. However, we started playing Jaws of the Lion, and I'm like, this is so good. It's really, really well done. And the first 5 scenarios teach you the rules as you go along. We've only played the first 2 scenarios. Once we get to scenario 5 or 6 or whatever, then we're kind of playing mostly the full rules, but you're not using the road events, you're not using global achievements. You don't use all of the Gloomhaven rules, but you do use 90% of them. And it's just great to go back to it because the stories are good, the adventures are good, and playing 2-player, we've only really ever played Gloomhaven 3 and 4-player. Playing 2-player was great. So yeah, the first of those videos is on my channel now, but it's not a playthrough video, it's a time-lapse video. Because Vicky doesn't want to be on camera or be heard on camera, but I thought, well, I want to produce some videos for Jaws of the Lion. We videoed it, and then I did a time-lapse video. So there is a 5-minute video on my channel now of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion Part 1 with me providing audio commentary as I'm playing. Part 2 is done, is filmed. I haven't edited it together yet, and we were supposed to do Part 3 this week, but yeah, yesterday didn't go to plan. So I worked until about 11 o'clock last night, so we didn't get a chance to do Part 3. But we'll be continuing that hopefully soon. Next up, 1st of October, I did Plunderous. This was a sponsored video, so I won't be giving too much of my personal opinion. However, Plunderous is a game which I have a prototype of in my garage, and I've had there for 2 years. Because, yeah, 2.5 years ago, the designer reached out to me and wanted to hire me for my consultancy and playback services, which is something that I do. He sent me a prototype of the game, and I actually organised a games weekend where people came over for the weekend and played the game and then provided feedback. Now, those people included Richard Breeze, David Turtsey. We played the game in my dining room with a laptop set up, with a camera, with a Skype connection, with the designer watching. He watched us play through the game, learning it from the rulebook and learning it as we went and giving him live direct feedback, and he was making notes. He has told me that that playtest that we did was absolutely invaluable for the development of the game. And then I remember taking it to Bacon, and I remember people playing it at Bacon and playing it, and we gave all of that feedback, and then it went quiet. And I didn't hear anything else about it. And he paid me for those services, and then it just disappeared. And games do that. Sometimes designers have these games, and then they just can't do anything with them. However, Andrew was away, and he was busy, and he was carrying on designing it and carrying on working on it. And then I saw it appear on BGG with all of this fancy new artwork from the Maicho, and yeah, and it looks fantastic. Now, you need to watch the video if you're interested in the game. As I say, it was a sponsored video, so I'm not going to come on here and tell you it's the best game ever, and I'm also not going to tell you that the game was rubbish. What I will tell you is that this is an epic game with a lot going on, okay? Andrew has thrown in so much into the game. It might be overwhelming for some, but if you like a sort of pirate-themed game with a lot of player interaction, with some deck building and some resource management, and a bit of this and a bit of that, and then other stuff and exploration, and these notes that you have to trade with each other to allow you to explore islands and all of this sort of stuff going on, then that's the game for you. We played a game, so the video was a 3-hour video. It would have been probably 4.5 hours for us to finish the game, but we decided to cap it at 3, so you see 4 out of the 6 rounds of play. That video was a little misleading in that we didn't have any player-to-player combat until round 4, and you would always have player-to-player combat before round 4, but they didn't attack me because they were teaching me the rules as we went on. So they didn't attack me at the start. We played through the first few rounds without combat, but they said at the end, normally in a normal situation, if you weren't new to the game, they would have attacked me, and there would have been more player interaction in that ways. And you saw a lot. If you skip to the end of the video, you see a lot happening in round 4. That's the kind of game it is. And what's really interesting about the game is when you look at it and you think, okay, it's pirate themed, it's an American designer, it's got these nice minis, it's got this, it's got that. Surely the combat has to be dice rolling. It's not. The combat is absolutely deterministic. And there's multiple ways you can do combat, and it all works thematically. And if you board them, then your crew fight, and if you spend cutlasses, you deal damage and you can kill the crew. But if you do a broadside attack, you spend cannons and it can damage the ship. There's no dice roll in combat at all. It is all down to spending cubes and things like that. So, you know, take a look at it. It's on Kickstarter right now. I don't think it's going to fund, unfortunately, you know, which is a shame, because I know Andrew's put a lot of hard work into it, and the Kickstarter page does look fantastic. Maybe it's just not a kind of game. I think it might be a bit of a niche game because it is quite complex. There's a lot going on, and your initial playtime will be quite long. But I think for the right people, sitting down and playing this 4 to 6 players one afternoon would be a great experience, but you need to find the right group for it. Finally, on the 2nd, before my battery runs out, Friday the 2nd, Tapestry. So, Stonemaier Games reached out to me again, because I'm on their list, and said, Paul, would you like a review copy of Tapestry Plans and Ploys, which is the new expansion? And I was like, Tapestry, you say? I don't actually have the base game. And they said, oh, that's fine. We'll send you the base game as well. So Tapestry. Now, let's go back to Pendulum. Pendulum, 80 to 90% of people has been telling me it's rubbish. There's a few people that like it. Tapestry, it's really 50-50. One of my friends, Mark, says Tapestry's his game of the year, right? I've got another friend whose opinion I also trust who said, Tapestry, awful, awful game, don't touch it, right? And I'm like, and everybody you speak to seems to be either, oh, it's absolutely fantastic and amazing, or it's absolutely rubbish. And a lot of people have actually said it's neither great or rubbish, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. And I'm like, well, I want to see this. Now, I was kind of put off because I've been told, I mean, I like Civ games. I grew up playing Advanced Civilization. I love Civ-based games. And people have told me, this isn't really a Civ game. This is just moving up tracks, okay? It isn't really, and I was like, oh, it's a bit disappointed. And then, of course, when the game came out, there were a number of balance issues with the factions which needed fixing, and that kind of gave me so maybe they didn't playtest this enough? I don't know. It gave me mixed feelings about it, but I didn't know much about it, which means it was in the, okay, well, if they're offering me a copy of this game, and it's a game that I'm curious about, let's do it, okay? So it arrived. Dan came over, a friend of mine, Dan, came over on Friday, and it was yet another of Paul learns how to play the game from the rulebook. Now, I knew the rulebook was a 4-page rulebook, so I knew it would be okay. I'm not going to do that for like a 20-page rulebook. Well, actually, I did it for Nemo's War, but that's another story. Okay, now, if I tell you this, this will hopefully answer the question of did I like it. We played the game, 2-player with Dan, then we went downstairs, we had a bit of a chat, Dan then went home, I came upstairs, and instead of putting it away, I set it up for a solo game, and I did a live stream of me playing it solo. So there's actually 3 videos on my channel right now for Tapestry. There is the 2-player playthrough with Dan, then there is the solo game on the Friday night, which I didn't finish because I got tired, so I finished it on the Saturday morning, right? Dan said it was brilliant. Dan absolutely loved it, and he loves Civ games as well. And I really liked it, and I don't know if it's because I went in with low expectations, but, and I know a lot of people say it's not a Civ game, it's not a Civ game. I kind of felt it was a bit. I was exploring on the map, I was conquering, I was researching technologies, I was upgrading things, I was building a kind of engine. It had the elements of a Civ game. I'm not saying it is a Civ game, but it had those elements. Production value was really good. Gameplay was good. I'm not sure I'd want to play it at the full player count because it does take up to 5. I know on the box it says something like 2 hours, and I know everybody who's played it at 4 and 5 players is like a 3.5 hour game. I can see that, but I really enjoyed it. And then I played the solo game afterwards, which I also really enjoyed. And Tapestry, unfortunately for me, is now another one of those games that I really want to play again. And I have too many of those games. So yeah, so that was Tapestry. Bit of a surprise. Wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I had, again, some concerns with the rulebook at the start. The initial part of the rulebook was like, it was a bit confusing. And again, I fed that information back to them and they said, thank you very much for that. We'll look at your suggestions and maybe throw them in the bin, or maybe make some tweaks for the next printing of it. But yeah, again, maybe going into these games with low expectations is the right way to do it. And I think that is it. I think that is all of the games that I've played since the last video log. I'm going to take a short break now because the battery is running low on this camera. And I'll come back later on with what else I'm doing. See you in a bit. Right, I'm back. So that's the end of all the games played. Now let's go on to other content which has been on the channel this month. And there's a lot of unboxings. So first of all, unboxing videos. I do these as a bit of fun, okay? Obviously a lot of the content that I create on the channel is provided through the support of the Patreon. But don't worry, I'm not using Patreon money to do unboxing videos. I'm doing unboxing videos because I like doing them and I do them live, so there's a bit of audience participation, and I really enjoy doing them. So thank you very much to everybody who joins in the live unboxings. 15th, I did a live unboxing of Tapestry. Obviously, I've just mentioned that I played it, so before that I did an unboxing. Bonfire, I did a live unboxing of that on the 18th. Merv, which is a video that I'm going to be doing a how to play video for sometime in the next month or so. I did that, and then I did, yesterday I did a Curious Cargo unboxing. Yeah, so I did 4 live unboxings. I also did the Pulsar 2849, which I briefly mentioned earlier on. So over Castle Tricon, I did a public demo, I say public, it was Patreon supporters, of Pulsar 2849 using Tabletopia. For those of you that have expressed an interest in seeing my style of demoing, which is the Gaming Rules Interactive drip feed method for teaching people how to play games at conventions, if you want to see that actually in operation, go and check out that video. So this is Pulsar 2849 for Castle Tricon. Video is on my channel now, and I use that drip feed method to teach people how to play the game while they're playing it, okay? And that game is one of the games where I can use that method. It's kind of what it was designed for, and that's there. Other things that I did a live Q&A. So every month, funded through the Patreon, I do a live Q&A. September was no exception. That's on the channel now, 30th of September, live Q&A. And there is a thread on my BGG guild. So if you're not on my BGG guild, please go and join my BGG guild, guild number 2258. There is a thread on there already right now for you to put in any questions that you want to ask me, and I will answer them in October's live Q&A, which will be the end of October. Right. Oh, and also, extra bonus content. totally unrelated to the Patreon, Shadowrun Returns. I'm playing through Shadowrun Returns at the moment on the computer. I'd like to play it more. I was hopefully would have finished it by now. But yeah, as I mentioned, I was still working at 11 o'clock last night. That means I don't have much personal time to do these things. However, Shadowrun Returns computer game parts 3 and part 4 are on the channel. I was planning on doing part 5 last night, but then got tied up with something else. I will be finishing that series. It will probably be about another 4 or 5 parts, I think. So, patron support. As mentioned a couple of times, a lot of the work that I do is sponsored by publishers, but a lot of the other work that I do is funded purely through the Patreon. The time that I'm taking to obviously write this vlog, film this vlog, edit this vlog, etc., but not just this. There's a huge amount of other content that I make that is only made possible through the Patreon. And I know I say this every time, but a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. This month has been a difficult month for the Patreon because of what's going on in the world. Obviously, the financial... What I was really surprised about is when lockdown happened and lots of uncertainty happened and the world got turned upside down, it didn't affect my Patreon. Now, a few people left, okay, saying financial difficulties, but more people were joining than were leaving, and the Patreon actually started going up. Now, this could have been because when lockdown happened, I actually started producing more and more and more content that wasn't paid for, that wasn't sponsored by publishers. I was basically using more of my own time to produce more content. I didn't do that in order to get more support on Patreon. I did that because I know there were people stuck at home, and I was just trying to do whatever I could to give them more content to watch. So I basically scrapped all of my free time and started producing more free content for people to watch. But anyway, what was surprising is that over the coronavirus crisis, my Patreon support actually was going up at a fairly slow pace, but it was going up, and I was expecting it to drop, but it didn't. Last month it did. So, you know, a lot of people left last month, and it's completely understandable why. And I look at those figures, and whilst, you know, you get affected, you see somebody leave and you're like, oh, am I not doing good enough? Am I not producing enough content? Is it the type of content? What is it they don't like? And most of the time, it's other factors as well. Now, sure, there are a couple of people that have left and said, Paul, we like your tutorial videos, but we don't like all of your other videos. And it's like, okay, so we're not supporting you on, but that's fine. You know, it's up to them what they do. The point is that I'm trying to produce as much content as I can for people to watch, and I'm producing a wide range. I'm producing a variety of content because that's what I want to do. I don't just want to do the tutorial videos. I want to do the live unboxings. I want to do the live playthroughs. I want to do these videos. I want to do all of this stuff because I enjoy doing all of that stuff. But anyway, a lot of people left my Patreon campaign in September, but a lot of people joined. So the net result was negative and it was down, which, as I say, is just one of those things. But a huge thank you to everybody who stayed with me. If, you know, as long as you're financially in a position where you can do that, then that's great. And obviously a huge thank you to everybody who's come on board in September, because without your support in September, it would have absolutely plummeted. But thankfully, yeah, quite a few people came on in September. So I'm going to put a list on screen now. This is not a list of everybody who's left. This is a list of all of the new supporters that have joined in the month of September, including some people who have increased their pledge from a lower level up to a higher level. So yeah, a massive thank you to all of my new supporters, but also all of my existing supporters. What do you get if you support me? Well, you get a whole host of things. You get to vote on what games I'm going to be reviewing, what games I'm going to be solo playthrough, but you also get access to the Slack channel. If you are a Patreon supporter of mine and you're not on the Slack channel, you don't have to come on the Slack channel, but I would strongly recommend it because it's a good little community there. There's a lot of people there. There's a lot of people discussing stuff during the day. There's a lot of people who've built up friendships on there. It's not just discussion about games. We talk about other things on there as well. And there's a lot of private stuff that gets discussed on there. A lot of people who share personal stories, and they use it as kind of a support network as well, which I use it for as well. So that's really good. But the thing that access to the Slack channel gets you is a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So whilst I want to produce all of my actual proper content that I produce, I want that to be free. I don't ever want to put that behind a paywall, which I know a lot of people do. And if they do that, that's up to them. I personally don't want to do that at the moment. I know if I did that, I'd probably get more support, but it's just one of those things. I want my content on video, on board games to be free for anybody to watch whenever they want to watch it. Saying that, over the last couple of months, I've been doing a lot of behind the scenes videos. Now, these are ones that I would probably not put on the channel, but they're little behind the scenes videos that I then say, oh, I'm going to do this tonight. Last night, for example, classic example, I decided last night to sit down and do a solo playthrough of the Dragon Slayer pinball table because I needed to practice it and make sure I understood how it worked, ready for the video that's happening on Thursday, the 8th of October. So if I'm going to sit down and I'm going to learn how to play the game, and I'm upstairs and I'm surrounded by cameras, I'll live stream it. But I'm not going to live stream that to my actual proper live channel because it's basically Paul eating cheesecake, you know, scratching his armpits, doing what, it's a behind the scenes video. And I'm doing quite a few of those. So if you're on the Slack channel, you will get to see those behind the scenes videos going on. Anyway, contest time. As well as obviously getting access to all of the Slack channel and being able to vote and everything else, I do a giveaway. Once a month, I do a giveaway. And this month's giveaway, last month's giveaway was for a copy of Season 1, Episode 1 of the Detective Society. And it wasn't just one copy, it was 5. So the Detective Society have been very generous and they have given me 5 copies of the game. Well, they've not given me 5 copies. They've virtually given me 5 copies. And 5 people have won a copy of Season 1, Episode 1. I did the draw yesterday. They've all been contacted by email. Check your email, check your junk folder to see if you've got it, because I've only heard back from 2 out of the 5. I'll try again if you don't get it. But anyway, yeah, so those 5 people have got a copy or will be getting a copy of the Detective Society Season 1, Episode 1. Thank you very much for your support. And this month's contest, I am pleased to announce, is for a copy of Endless Winter. Now, if you don't know what Endless Winter is, there's a picture there, but go and look it up on BGG. It's a game which I've been professionally involved in. I've done the rulebook for this game. It's going on Kickstarter at the end of this month, so it'll be going to Kickstarter at the end of October. I will be doing a tutorial and playthrough video for it using Tabletop Simulator at the end of this month to tie in with the launch of the campaign. I think I'm doing it on the day it launches, I think. But you can win, okay? If you are a patron supporter of mine, you will be automatically entered into the draw. You don't have to do anything, unlike the other contests that I run where you need to go and fill in a Google form or send me an email. None of that, you don't need to do anything. At the end of this month, so on the 1st of November, if you are a producer level or higher of mine, you automatically get entered into the draw, okay? And I do the draw and then you'll get a copy of it. And this time I've managed to time it right because it's at the time when the Kickstarter is actually happening. So therefore, you will know whether you've won or not. So if you backed the game and then you suddenly find you've won, you can cancel your pledge. Or if you didn't back the game, waiting until you see if you'd won, then yeah, you can get it afterwards. So it's actually not just a copy of Endless Winter. It's Endless Winter and all of the expansions. Now, I can't say more about what the expansions are because they won't let me. I do know what the expansions are because I've worked on them. But yeah, it's a copy of Endless Winter and all of the expansions. And if you are a patron supporter of mine, yeah, this time next month, you might be getting an email from me saying that you've won. So yeah, good luck to everybody. Right, speaking of the Patreon, another thing that Patreon supporters get access to. So producer levels and higher. I think it was producer level and higher. Maybe I dropped it down. But I'm doing a top 10. So in December of this year, at the start of December this year, I think I have time booked out in my calendar to film the Patreon supporters top 10 games of all time, okay? I don't feel comfortable in doing a top 10 games of all time when some of those games on that list are ones that I've been involved in, right? If I say Paul's top 10 favourite games of all time, and it includes Through the Ages, which I helped work on, and Mage Knight, right? I don't know, I don't feel comfortable about that. And it always makes me feel a bit uncomfortable when And I'm not criticizing them, I'm just saying, I'm just being honest. It makes me uncomfortable when I see another content creator do their awards and the people who won that award was somebody who sponsors their podcast or somebody who commissioned them to do a video. Now, if they're unbiased, that's absolutely fine. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that when you look at something and you go, oh, wait a minute, you just gave an award to somebody who actually gives you money for, I don't know. So what I've decided to do is to do a patron supporters top 10. So it's not my top 10, it's your top 10. If you're a patron supporter of mine, there's a link, you've been sent to a Google form. At the moment, 94 people have filled it in, and I think 350 got that email. So please, 94 is not enough. I need all of you who are supporters of mine who got that email to click on that link and just put in your top 5 games, your top 5 games of all time, and then I'll combine all the results together and I will produce a top 10 video and I'll talk about them. I'll give my opinions on those games. But yeah, it's my patron supporters top 10 games. So that's happening. Right, next up, future plans. Here's what's happening over the next few weeks. Rococo video. The Rococo video is actually done, right? It just needs to go live. I'm waiting on Eagle Griffin telling me it can go live and then I'll make it live. But the how to play videos for Rococo are done, dusted, they're ready to go. The Kanban video is about half done and is now on hold because I've got other things that are more important, but I'm hoping to get back to it next week. This week I'm working on the Intrepid rulebook. The team is still working on the Batman rulebook. The Frostpunk work got done just in time. Frostpunk is now live on Kickstarter. I had to get the rulebook done to a certain level ahead of the Kickstarter. Super Skill Pinball tomorrow night. Friday night, Nick and Gemma are coming over and we're actually filming 2 videos, which are going to be tutorial and playthrough videos for Project L, which is going on Kickstarter on Monday. So they don't want me to make the videos live on Friday, they want me to make them live on Monday. So we're recording it this Friday, they'll go live on Monday. And on Tuesday, I'm doing a solo playthrough of Project L. This weekend, we're going to be testing the Detective Society Series 1, Episode 4. That's this weekend. Next week should have been Gates of Mara, but it's going to be Kanban instead, and Gates of Mara is going to shuffle back a little bit. Next Wednesday is The Crew, so next Wednesday night, advance notice, I'm going to be doing some online gaming with Dan and Joe and Tristan, who are the guys behind the Detective Society. We're going to be doing some online gaming together, and we're going to start with The Crew, so that's next Wednesday. Next Friday is going to be Seastead, which is a 2-player game from WizKids, by JB Howe, set in the world of Flotilla. So me and Rick will be learning how to play that at some point in the week before, and then next Friday we'll be doing a live 2-player tutorial and playthrough of it. The week after that should have been Import-Export from Jordan Draper, tutorial video, but I'm probably going to do Gates of Mara and shuffle back Import-Export. And then it's Essen. Wow. I mean, Essen is this month. That is really, really scary. So here's my plans for Essen. I am going to be demoing for approximately 50% of the day, and then I'm going to be playing games for 50% of the day. The demoing I'm going to be doing is for Czech Games Edition. I'm going to be doing 1 demo of Lost Ruins of Arnak each day at a fixed time. I can't remember what that time is. I think it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I will be doing 1 demo of Lost Ruins of Arnak each day. If you are a patron supporter of mine and you want to book a space, let me know. Let me know now, because although we haven't got the schedule fixed, as I told you, I'm doing it every day at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you're interested and you want to see me teach Lost Ruins of Arnak to you, drop me an email or get in contact with me and book a place. The other demoing I'm going to be doing is going to be in the evening UK time, and this is going to be Agamonia, the new big cooperative fantasy game that my team are working on the rulebook for, and my patron supporters, a number of them have had access to the playtest of this game. But it's it's going to be a big fantasy cooperative story narrative campaign-driven game. It's going on Kickstarter in January, but they're starting to do some demos of it. And they've asked me to do some demos over the Essen Spiel weekend, so I'm going to be doing that. But apart from that, I'm actually going to be doing some live streams of me playing games. Okay, so the new game from Vladimir Suchy, Prague, that I'm going to be getting a copy of that. It's Prague or something, I can't remember. I'm going to be hopefully getting a physical copy of that beforehand. Hallertau, the new game from Uwe Rosenberg, I'm hopefully getting that beforehand. 2 new Friedemann Friese games, Fayum and Friedemann. I've got Friedemann already, it's up there, yep. And Fayum, I'm hopefully getting copies of those in as well. If not, I can play them online. So my plan for the Essen Spiel weekend is to do what I would do at Essen, which is spend half of my time demoing for publishers and the other half of my time playing new games. But by staying at home, I'm going to be live streaming those games as well. Not sponsored. Well, the ones that I'm being paid to demo will be. They will be live streamed. But the other ones, not sponsored, it's just me playing games. So Essen, end of the month, very, very exciting. I'm also planning the Sunday before Essen to do a live stream with a whole load of other guests of Essen new hot releases. What are you excited about? So that's planned for 4 p.m. on the Sunday, on the Sunday just before Essen. Right, other stuff. Reviews. I do 1 review a month, but at the moment I'm not. Okay, so I didn't do the review last month. I'm not doing a review this month. I might not even do a review in November. That's all tied in with this phase that I'm going through with work, because for me to do a review, I need to play it a whole bunch of times. It takes me in total time to do a review. I mean, what you see is a 15-minute video of Paul's review. The amount of time that's gone into that is probably between 10 and 15 hours of work. And I don't have, and that's what the Patreon funds, I don't have the time to put into that at the moment. I am going to do those reviews, but I'm going to be doing them in December and January. So in December and January, you're probably going to get 3 reviews a month, because that'll be me catching up. So apologies, no reviews at the moment. Personal stuff. Let's talk a quick little bit about personal stuff that I've been up to. Right, that's that done. No, I mean, to be honest, I just don't have time. Every day at the moment blurs into one. I wake up every day, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what day it is, and I work, and I'm working till sometimes midnight on a Sunday, because I don't know. I'm just working, and everything in my personal life is kind of on hold at the moment. The only little bit of downtime I've had has been a few hours off here and there to watch some TV. We've been watching Flash Series 2, Arrow Series 4, Supergirl Series 1. As of, not last night, but Monday, we've finished them. So they're all now finished. We're up to date. We're probably now going to watch some old Red Dwarfs, and I'm doing a little bit of painting. But that's it. Yeah, there's no personal time to do anything at the moment. Personal time will come back to me later in the year. That is everything. That is everything on my list. So thank you very much for watching. As I said at the start, thank you very much to all of my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. And if you like the content that I create and you are in a position to be able to support the channel, then please do so. Hopefully by supporting me, there's something you get back, hopefully. But I know a lot of people out there support me and aren't on the Slack channel and don't watch a lot of my videos, but they're just happy to support me in what I do, which is great. So thank you very much for that. There will be a lot more content coming. I sort of mentioned roughly what content is coming. There's more than that. I just haven't mentioned all of it. I will produce as much content as I can for you. And yeah, this is going to continue for another, well, I don't know. I mean, I say this is going to continue. I'm going to take things easy. If you're a little bit worried about me and the amount that I'm working at the moment, and trust me, I'm worried about it, there is an end in sight. Things are going to get easier in December. In December, I will drop down to a 40, 50 hour week. That's the plan, which is still a lot, but it's a lot better than it is now. And January, I'm planning to take most of January off work, right? Now, that doesn't mean I'm going away on holiday and sitting on a beach. I'm going to be live streaming games a lot. I'm going to be producing a lot of content for you. I'm going to be going through lots and lots of games in my collection, because what's been frustrating me for about 6 to 12 months now is all of these great games that are calling out to me saying, Paul, play with us. And I've got these great games that I don't have time to play. And I eventually got fed up when I looked at my copy of Too Many Bones and went, I don't have time to play this. This is not fair on the game or on me. So my plan for January is that I'm taking most of the month of January off, and I will be live streaming me playing games. And I will be playing Too Many Bones. I will be playing Maracaibo. I'll be playing Tapestry. I'll be playing all of these games that I really want to play that I keep telling myself I don't have time to play them. That's the plan for January. It's quite a way away, but at least I've got something to look forward to. But anyway, that's everything for now. I will see some of you in a future live stream. Please drop in and say hi to one of my live unboxings or one of my live playthroughs. Other than that, yeah, we're all done. I'll see you next month. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.